So there's a optional quest, I suppose maybe you could call it, in Shining Force 2 that involves all the mithril you find. There's 15 pieces altogether. We'll get to that later. But basically you take it to a blacksmith and he'll forge weapons out of the mithril. They're arguably everybody's best weapons. Some of them are junk and not good, and some of them are much better. But the game's not that hard to begin with, so they just make you even stronger. They're not necessary, so if you miss the mithril, it's not the end of the world. And now in order to get to the blacksmith, you actually need a second item, which is far more harder to find than the mithril. So what you need to do is you need to come to this cave here, north of the elf village, which you're forced to as part of the story here with the fairy. But once that's sorted out, you just reach into the campfire here, and you'll find something called a dry stone, which you'll need to get to the dwarf blacksmith once we have everything. You can't really miss this because you can always come back, so if you don't have a dry stone, just come back, stick your hand in that campfire right there, and you'll have one. And I didn't find all 15 pieces of mithril myself, but just for completion's sake, I will show where they all are. The first two you can miss forever if you don't grab them in time, but there's 15 pieces altogether. There's only 12 people in your army, so you'll have a surplus of mithril, even more so if you use people like Peter that can't use weapons at all, so you have an even bigger surplus, so you can miss a few. First one for sure you can miss. When you're at the tower in Grand Seal Castle, just walk behind it, and when you're standing between those two windows, look up, and you'll find a piece of mithril. But this one's gone forever, like I said. Not the end of the world, though, if you miss it. Other one you can miss is when Grand Seal's getting destroyed, just stick your hand in this hole randomly, like any smart person would. You'll find a piece of mithril. Put that in your bag and be on your way. There's one south of Yeel, which I think you might be able to get in the beginning of the game, but you can just come back for it anyways, because it's not like you can use the blacksmith until then. But it's at the tip of that little mountain there. There's one in Gollum Castle, which you can get really early, but you can also go back for that one. It's in the tunnel you used to escape from the prison. But just search the back wall where you fall down, and there's a piece of mithril for you. There you go. There's a piece of mithril in the children's sandbox in Ribble. I guess nobody ever noticed, but steal it from them and be on your way. There's two in Hassan. There's one in a treasure chest next to the church, which nobody noticed for some reason. There's also a second piece that's just in one of these barrels at the docks. I think it's the only time you'll find mithril in a barrel, so fun barrel facts. If you go east from Hassan to the coast, which is north of the desert, you'll find a piece of mithril in that mountain there. There's no random battles around here, at least, but it's not the easiest place to get landmarks for. If you go around the inn in the Elven village, there's a little treasure chest hiding in the trees, which, shock, has mithril in it. That's what the video's about, so don't know why you're surprised. When you're in the tunnel going to Creed's mansion, there's a little secret passageway. But if you go south through the wall there, you'll find another secret passageway, and that's where some mithril is. Then when you leave the tunnel and you're right outside his mansion, you search this mountain right there along the eastern side for a piece of mithril. This one's really silly. It's the only time you walk sideways through a wall, I think, but there's a hole right there, obviously. And that's where the horse people keep their mithril in the basement. And when you leave Pakalon, you're going to Tristan. Just search that little mountaintop right there along the road. Right after you kill Zalbard, the cutscene literally puts you right next to this chest, so I think you'd be very hard-pressed to miss this piece. And then the last piece is when you crash the Nazca ship. There's a little dojo along the coast there, and if you walk side off the road, there's a piece of mithril. So there's all 15 pieces of mithril that you can find. Now that you've got them all, you head north from Gollum with your dry stone in hand, hopefully. Go to this little odd indent in the river next to a light piece of forest. Use the dry stone, which will miraculously part the waters, not destroy the local ecosystem somehow. And you're in the Dwarven village. Next, you want to just barge into people's homes, force your way to the back. Because for some reason, the blacksmith doesn't like to have a shop near the entrance like a smart businessman. But just give him a piece of mithril, then he'll ask who you would like a weapon to be made for, and then he will make a weapon for them. So, for example, if you asked for a weapon for Karna, he'd make a staff that any staff user could use. And he also charges $5,000, but that's usually not a problem at this point in the game. And like I said, some of the weapons are good and some are bad, but I'll show you the ones I picked, not that they're especially amazing. For Slate, I had a Gusarm made, which is his most powerful sword. Has a chance to instantly kill, but it's also a real pain in the ass to get that one. I think it's the rarest one overall, so I had to hand him a few pieces of mithril and just hope he made it, and then load your game, basically, if it's not the one you want. For Jaha and Lemon, I got a ground axe, which isn't their strongest weapon, but it gives +1 move, which that's a problem for those little fellas, so now they can get around a bit better. Road gets a Grand Cannon, which I think is the best weapon. Nothing fancy for him, he just loves to shoot shit. Same for Sarah, I just gave her Giant Knuckles, which I think are the strongest. No weird side grade behavior there. I think there's Knuckles that drain MP and stuff, but just punch shit. And then for Karna, Kazin, and Chaz, I got a Mystery Staff, which regenerates 2 MP every turn, which is great if the battle drags on. And they don't hit stuff, so win-win. But there you go, that's Mithril, basically.